Greenland and Iceland sit side by side in the North Atlantic, close enough to share similar latitudes, weather systems, and long, dark winters. On a map, they appear like neighbors shaped by the same forces of nature, yet their names suggest something completely misleading. Greenland is dominated by a vast frozen ice sheet, while Iceland, despite its volcanic reputation and cold climate, contains surprisingly green landscapes during much of the year. This contrast feels almost like a historical mix-up, but the reasons behind it run much deeper than naming alone. Right here, on History of Simple Things. Greenland is the largest island in the world, and roughly 80% of its surface is covered by a thick ice sheet that can reach more than 3 kilometers deep. This ice has been accumulating for hundreds of thousands of years, compressing into a massive, permanent layer that reflects sunlight and reinforces the island's cold climate. In contrast, Iceland is much smaller and lacks any comparable ice sheet. While it does have glaciers, they cover only about 10% of the land, leaving large areas exposed. This difference in ice coverage plays a major role in shaping each island's appearance. Greenland's ice sheet acts like a giant mirror, bouncing solar radiation back into the atmosphere and preventing the land from warming significantly. Iceland, with its darker volcanic soil and exposed terrain, absorbs more heat during the summer months. Even a slight increase in absorbed warmth can make a visible difference, allowing grasses, moss, and shrubs to grow. One of the biggest factors separating Greenland and Iceland is the movement of ocean currents. Iceland benefits from the North Atlantic Current, an extension of the Gulf Stream that carries relatively warm water from the tropics toward Europe. This current moderates Iceland's climate, keeping temperatures milder than expected for its latitude. As a result, its coastal regions rarely experience the extreme cold seen in other Arctic areas. Greenland, on the other hand, is heavily influenced by cold Arctic currents flowing down from the north. These currents bring icy water along its coasts, reinforcing freezing conditions and helping maintain the massive ice sheet inland. The contrast between warm and cold currents creates a sharp environmental divide between the two islands, even though they are geographically close. Iceland sits directly on the mid-Atlantic ridge, a boundary between tectonic plates where magma rises from beneath the Earth's crust. This makes Iceland one of the most volcanically active places on the planet. Beneath its surface lies a constant source of geothermal heat, which warms the ground, fuels hot springs, and even helps keep parts of the land free from ice. This geothermal energy contributes to Iceland's greener appearance. Warmer soil temperatures and volcanic minerals create conditions where plant life can take hold more easily, even in a cold environment. Greenland lacks this level of volcanic activity. Its landmass is older and more stable, with far less geothermal heat reaching the surface. Without that internal warmth, ice remains dominant and vegetation struggles to spread. Greenland's ice sheet is not just wide but also incredibly thick, raising the elevation of much of the island. Higher elevations tend to be colder, which further preserves the ice. In fact, the center of Greenland is so elevated and cold that snowfall rarely melts, adding layer upon layer to the ice sheet over time. Iceland's terrain, while rugged and mountainous, does not reach the same sustained elevations across such a vast area. Its lower average elevation allows for more seasonal melting and less permanent ice coverage. This creates a cycle where snow and ice retreat during warmer months, exposing land that can support plant growth, even if only briefly. The names Greenland and Iceland often spark curiosity, and their origins are tied to human history rather than scientific accuracy. Iceland was named by early Norse explorers possibly as a straightforward description of the icy conditions they encountered. Greenland, however, was named by Eric the Red, a Norse settler who is believed to have chosen the name as a way to attract more settlers to the island. While parts of southern Greenland do turn green during the summer, especially along the coasts, the name likely emphasized this limited greenery to make the land seem more appealing. Over time, the name stuck, even as they came to feel misleading compared to the island's actual environments. Despite their differences, both Greenland and Iceland are shaped by a delicate balance of climate forces. Small changes in temperature, ocean currents, or atmospheric patterns can have noticeable effects on their landscapes. Iceland's greenery depends on relatively mild summers and geothermal warmth, while Greenland's ice sheet persists because of sustained cold and high elevation. In recent years, climate change has begun to shift this balance. Greenland's ice sheet is melting at an accelerating rate, contributing to global sea level rise. Iceland's glaciers are also retreating, revealing more land beneath. These changes highlight how sensitive both islands are to even slight variations in temperature and environmental conditions. The contrast between Greenland and Iceland is not a simple case of mistaken naming, but the result of powerful natural forces working over long periods of time. Ocean currents, volcanic activity, elevation, and the presence or absence of massive ice sheets all combine to shape their environments. What seems like a geographical irony is actually a clear example of how complex and interconnected Earth systems can be. Greenland remains icy not by accident but because the conditions there sustain its frozen state, while Iceland's relative warmth and volcanic energy allow patches of green to emerge against the odds. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.